All right, guys, so, yep, you're good. So what we've done so far, or what we did yesterday, was we went over solving quadratic equations by graphing and the square root method. And those are the two main ways we have gone through solving these here. And we'll look at one or two here with factoring because we've done this already, but we'll look at it here again. And then that will be it for today. So we'll look at two or three with factoring, and then we're going to be done for today. Now, if we look at one like this here, x squared minus 4x equals 45, the first thing we'll need to do is get this what?
The first thing we need to do is get x by itself, like x squared by itself. Get a 0.
Now, we would get x squared by itself if we didn't have the 4x, negative 4x.
No, but we have to put the 45 together.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I do because that's not a number.
No, it's not.
I calculated it.
You can take number 4.
Number 1.
Yeah. So, now, if we didn't have that middle term, the 4x, then we could use the square root method, get x squared by itself and square root both sides. But since we do have a middle term of 4x, we need to get this equal to 0. Then we can factor it. There's not a greatest common factor. There's not something that will go into all three terms. So we can do our two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces.
Example 3. Okay.
Now, since the 45 is negative, our third term is negative, our signs are going to be positive and negative. They're going to be opposite. One's positive, one's negative. If the third term, if the 45 had been positive, the signs would have been the same and matched the sign of the middle term. Now we need to find the factors of the first and third term. Well, the factors of x squared are x and x. The factors of 45 are 1 and 45, 3 and 15. 4 doesn't work, but 5 and 9. 5 and 9, which would be positive? And the 9 would be negative. Now we can check this here, because negative 9 times x would be negative 9x. 5 times x is going to be plus 5x, which does indeed give us the negative 4x that we wanted. Then we can set both of these equal to 0 because of our 0 product property. Well, x plus 5, so here we would subtract 5, telling us x is negative 5. Here we can add 9 to both sides, telling us x is equal to 9. And that would be it. Those would be our answers. Questions on this here? Okay.
Thank you.
So our last problem was what? X squared minus 4x plus, not plus, minus 45, yes? So we see 2 spots it crosses. So on the table, we said one of the answers was negative 5, yes? and the calculator does confirm it, because negative 5, 0, negative 5 does make the y value be 0. So we need to scroll down. And at 9, we do have a y value of 0. So those are our answers.
So what you just, I forgot to do it with the calculator, x squared minus okay.
Minus 45, because we do need it equal to 0 for us to be able to graph it.
Okay. Oh, we typed in the first equation we made.
Yes. Now, so guys, we could have typed it in as x squared minus 4x. And what was it equal to originally? It was equal to what? 45. So we could have typed them in separately and said graph. Now we can't see where it intersects because it intersects at what? 45, yes? But if I go second table, well, the second value is 45, yes? We're looking for what x value now is going to make these two be the same. What x value is going to make the two sides be the same? Well, if we look at negative 5, because that was one of our answers, what are the two y values? So the correct answer is 45. And at 9, it's at 45 and 45, no. Because we moved the 45 over to make this equal 0, yes? So when we subtract the 45, we're making all of these y values 45 less than what they are now. Which means at 9, instead of having a y value at 45, it has a value of. At 32, we would subtract 45, which would be negative 13. And do that there. Yeah, no. It's just another way of doing it. Because minus 45, and I'll just put here x squared minus 4x. If we look at the two here, the first one's with the minus 45, and if we notice, each one of these is 45 less than the other. So it's a bit easy. It's a little bit easier to look at it this way, because if we're trying to just find where y is 0 instead of trying to see where the y values are the same. So it's a little bit easier to look at or find. Same method, same process, but just a different way to do it.
So we just put it in the calculator and check if it's right.
Yeah, I mean here, the first thing we can do is subtract 2. So 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 is equal to 0. Now, if it had told us that we could solve this by any method, well, one method that works is graphing. We can graph it. So we can plug 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 into the graphing calculator. So 3x squared minus x minus 2. X squared minus 5x minus 2.
Hold on, I'll tell you the answer.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way.
So I would agree 2 is one of our solutions, yes? So calculate value negative 0.5. So there are 2. There's a second one, but it's not 0.5. It's a fraction. So yes, unless we're able to determine what the other one is. Now, that is kind of nice, because we know one of the values of x here is going to be 2, yes? Now, since 2 is negative, our signs are positive and negative. They're going to be opposite. Now we need to look at the factors of 3x squared and 2. Well, one of them we know is going to be x and x, yes? Now the factors of 3 are 3 and 1. I just put 3 in. Now we also know the factors of 2 are 1 and 2, yes? Which number do we want to put first? 2, 1. Now we can check this. Here, 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. 2 times x is going to be plus 2x is equal to negative x. Is that the middle term we wanted? No. So we can switch 2 and 1. See if that helps. Blue. So we have 1 and 2. Now 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. 1 times x is going to be plus x, which gives us negative 5x, which is what we wanted. Which means these two, one of these two has to be 0. So 3x plus 1 is equal to 0, or x minus 2 is equal to 0. For this one here, we can subtract 1 from both sides, telling us 3x is equal to negative 1. And then both sides by 3, telling us x is equal to negative 1/3. For the other one, we can add 2. So we already knew the x equals 2. We just weren't able to find the negative 1/3. Any other questions on this here? Now, we can use the value function on the calculator. Say second, calculate value, negative 1 divided by 3. It is indeed 0. Any other questions on any of this here? I believe this is one of the last ones, one of the last 3 that we're going to look at. Find the zeros, find the solutions, find the x-intercepts. These are all the same thing. Because when it asks to find the zeros, we're trying to find out what value of x is going to make this function equal 0. So we can come over here and say 2x squared minus 11x, not 11x. What was the middle term? It was 11? Plus 12. And then we can hit graph or enter. Either one. So one of the values we know is what? 4. Because we have 4, 0. Because here, we do have a solution. Well, here we did find 1. Because 12, the x value is 0. We're wanting to find out where the y value is 0. Now, sometimes, again, it's nice to graph it, because if it did work out that the solutions were both integers, didn't have a decimal, it would have given it to us. Now, 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Since the third term is positive, the signs are the same and they match the sign of the middle term, so negative and negative. Now we need to find the factors of the first and third term. Well, 2x squared, we know we'll have x and x. And one of these is going to be a 2. Now, because we're finding the zeros, we're trying to see where this is equal to 0. Now, the factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So we could try 2 and 6 or 1 and 12. So if we do 2 and 6, do these two have a common factor?
Yeah.
Did the original one have a common factor?
No.
No. So this one here, it won't work. If we try it, we'd have negative 12x minus 2x, which is negative 14x. So that one,
But you can prove that.
now if we flip it, we have 6 and
There's still
there's still
a common.
a common factor in the first one.
So it's 1 and 12, right?
So 1 and 12,
1.
2x times 12 is going to be negative 24x minus x, which is
Maybe it's
negative 25x. Can we flip the 1 and 12
yeah, but then there'll be a common factor anyway.
in the first one? So
Let's do 3 and 4.
3 and 4. 2. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, which is
Negative 11.
what we wanted. So we can say negative 2x minus 3 is equal to 0 and x minus 4 is equal to. Divided by 2. So x is 3/2. Now the other one, we would add 4 to both sides, telling us x is equal to 4. And again, if you feel like the answer is something that doesn't look like it came out right, plug it back in. Plug it back into the function and see, does it indeed here give us 0? So we could say 3/2. We can say 2 times 3/2 squared minus 11 times 3/2 plus 12. And we can see if this does give us 0. We don't have to work it out by hand. We could plug this into the calculator and let it do it for us. If we did this by hand, we'd have 2 times 9/4 minus 33 over 2 plus 12. 2 times 9/4 is going to be 9/2 minus 33 over 2 plus 12. 9/2 minus 33 is going to be negative 24 plus 12, which is negative 12 plus 12, which is indeed 0. So we could type it into the calculator and let it do it for us. It goes 3/2. So we could say 2 times 3 divided by 2 squared minus 11 times 3 divided by 2 plus 12. And it gives us 0. Questions on any of this here? Let's look at this one here, x squared minus 8x. So we're wanting to find what's going to make this equal 0, yes? So one way we can try is what? We can try graphing it. X squared minus...
So it's 0 and
0 and 8. One giveaway with these here, and these are nice, if there's not a constant term, a number without a variable, one of the solutions is going to be 0. Because if we plug 0 into this, we'd have 0 squared minus 8 times 0. 0 squared is, 8 times 0 is, if it doesn't have just a constant term like the next one where it has plus 49 on the end, one of the solution has to be 0. Any other questions on this here? I want to give you all the rest of the time to work on the assignment, because some of the problems on the homework are graphing, so I want you to be able to use the graphing calculators while you're here so that you can at least get some practice with those. Now, on the test, there will be some that ask specifically for you to solve by a certain method. So if they ask you to solve by factoring, you need to factor them to solve. If it asks you to solve by graphing, you get to graph it to solve. If it says to solve by any method or just find the zeros, you can use any method to find it. And at this point, we have the square root method, graphing, and factoring. Those are the only 3 methods that we have.